small group instruction.
The other thing we're doing with the faculty room, I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, the faculty room, the modified room, moving the one supervisor down there, her office, so her office from upstairs and moving down. We're also remodeling the faculty room to be able to do PT instruction down there for the staff. And lastly, the book room is also moving down there, so that's also freeing up space upstairs.
Will the stuff upstairs need to be modified at all? Like that office that now becomes open, will that be used for small instruction, or will that be used for something else? Do we know? Is there more work that needs to be done on that?
Yes, but it's not, well, it's not within the scope of the architect. We can handle that internally with our normal summer work, and our custodial staff can, freshen up the room and prepare it for regular, for other purposes. In other words, we're not redoing electrical. It already has lights. It already has, clock. All the things required for a classroom. So all they have to do is just clean it out, repaint it, and use it for another purpose.
Was there an ultimate reason that we needed? And so I know the goal was set obviously for more small instruction. Was there, a state mandate, or is it just because rooms are never available? Was there another reason why we need this specifically?
I'll look to John speak to that.
Sure. There are several reasons. One is that we currently have that multi-use room is filled way beyond capacity. Not only are there 3 different teachers going in and out of there, but there's a supervisor who has a cubicle, and we also have the book room crammed in there. So in terms of mandate, the county executive does not like to get multiple year after year after year requests to have multi-use spaces. They ask us to try to remediate that. In addition, elsewhere in the building, we have nowhere to do a lot of different kinds of small group activities. We have no place for therapists to work, except in hallways in some cases. And in addition, we also know from looking at the trends that we've been observing that we're going to have greater need for small group spaces in the future. And lastly, right now, we have a very, very high cost that we're paying for out-of-district placements. So increasing our ability to service more students in-house is, I think, will benefit us financially.
Does this go far enough? Does this plan here accomplish all the goals that you were talking about and the ultimate long-term need of the district?
Yeah, if you go through the optional items, we can do quite a bit more. The issue that we had at the subcommittee level is that we're going to be spending a lot of money in order to do that. So, we have, as an example, off the top of my head, we have the space off the multi-purpose, not the library. What's it called?
There's the tech lab.
Well,
The language room.
that's the language room. I couldn't remember the name of the library. Medium, IMC, there we go. So the IMC has a room that used to be a computer lab, and now it's a language classroom. And, it's a fairly large room, but we could use it for other purposes, but it would cost us some significant amount of money to convert that space. And then we have another computer lab where we could possibly convert that room. But it is also very expensive. And so at this point in time, I don't want to say it's low-hanging fruit, because nothing is easy when you start to remodel down there, but it's high priority. So what we're going to get out of this is we're going to free up enough space to get those groups down into the basement to make it a effective down there because it's currently it's not utilized at all for instruction. And based on these cost estimates, it's going to cost us anywhere from $450 to $600,000. And going beyond that, it's just a kind of too expensive for me. So, the subcommittee thought that maybe we could do this over a multi-year approach. And this is something that we can do in the 1920 year, and then we can take another look at it in the following years.
One thing that concerns me is I don't know how much we're looking at like changing demographics when we're doing this. You mentioned that you think that there's going to be a future need for more small group instructions. You know, obviously there's reasons behind that you think. Looking at those reasons and going, okay, what is the actual, you know, all the things that we're leaving out look more specifically tied to this is classroom, this is instruction, this is going to help the kids. And we're making decisions to not do that. I almost would love for us to get a sense of where the biggest, you know, one thing that's missing here is you have cost, complexity, scope, composite, but like there's no sense of need. Like I don't have a sense from you guys about like what would the administration or whatever say is the biggest need, especially looking at the future. I'm a little concerned about that. I don't want to spend money to spend money. I agree with that. If we're going to do a project like this, I'd make sure that we're doing it for the future.
I don't mind. Prior to this document, we had prioritized these differently. We've asked the principal and the superintendent to look at this list, the entire list, not just the proposed and then the optional. And we asked them to rank them on a scale, I think, of 1 to 4. And then we compared what the principal put down and what the superintendent put down. And basically, the top section, what we're proposing is something that they both selected as their top priority. The other ones were less important. So while that is not included in this document because it would just make it very complex, and I didn't want it to be too confusing. So, but it was taken under consideration. These are not the subcommittee or board member suggestions. They come directly from the superintendent. So, and a lot of it had to do with, you know, the complexity and the cost. And, you know, we had to draw a line somewhere. And so this is where we're at.
Did you, I didn't hear you respond to the projecting future needs. You know, like we talk about demographic changes. Are we taking any of that into account? You know, I see the second grade classroom as, you know, as a thing that it could be used for. Are we looking at, you know, what the population changes are and what we're projecting our need is when we determine this?
Well, at the subcommittee level, we did not.
Okay.
You know, I can say as a board member, you know, it would be nice to know all that information. But, you know, at what cost does it take to get that information and how long would it take to reach decisions here? So, but I'm sure John looked at some of that when he was putting in his weightings. I'd like to speak to that.
Sure. We absolutely did have those discussions. I talked to our architect about things like the need for spaces for therapies, the need for spaces for small group instruction. We are looking for a space for a self-contained classroom. And so that was how Mr. Samjian came up with a lot of his recommendations, was in direct response to what I said were our greatest needs.
Did we have an ultimate target budget that we were going to spend on this to begin with? Like when we were envisioning it, we're like, oh, there's $1.2 million available. We want to. Well, Mr. Darian, thank you. I think this is wonderful that you put together. I really appreciate all the work you did on this. I just wanted to make a question.
Sure. Thank you.
And some very valid questions, Jeremy. But did you take the tour with us at the last meeting?
I missed the last meeting, so you'll have to forgive
And I
me.
think that was, I mean, these are good questions, and I think it's a little abstract. You know, we've been in the committee for a long time, and I think if you see that storage space, you see all of it in the basement, and you're like, wow, this is really wasted, you know, dirty space in the building, and we have different needs now, and I think, you know, Yeah, we didn't set out to do 3 items on the list. We wanted to do everything, but we can't bankrupt the district. But I think it would be, you know, if you want to take the tour sometime, I think it would help to have good questions because you haven't been on that journey with us in buildings and grounds.
Well, I very much trust the work that you guys are doing. I just, you know, I think from my perspective, I don't want a good enough solution for us. I want a great long-term solution for the kids.
And we did too. I totally agree with you. It's just, you know, anytime you do, every time the price comes in buildings and grounds, I'm always horrified because it always comes in so much higher than I think it should, you know, and, you know, like, for example, like, if you look at the one line, the wheelchair lift for the 4th grade ramp, okay, that doesn't change instruction. But we don't have one. Do you know what I'm saying? There are things, you know, it's complex, and I think, I wish we could do more, you know, I hear you.
I don't sit on building and grounds, but I did take that tour, and it was really eye-opening to see. And when you look at it on paper, and all your questions are valid, you look at a basement storage room space, but when you go down there, it really brings it to life that these are very needed areas to reconstruct and get what we're looking for in many cases. And I thought it was very poignant, the world language room now, maybe dividing that or making that for special ed class. So I really think, you know, they did their homework, due diligence, certainly the committee, and prioritizing it, I think is a great idea. And some of these things I think can be done. I'm no architect, but in having taken the tour, it can be done by some of our in-house staff too. I did have a question, Greg, on that wheelchair lift, which is up there on number 9 as far as cost goes. Are there grants or things that can come to us through other means for funding?
My opinion at the time was, while a wheelchair lift is important for the 4th grade, and we've been around a while in this building, and to date we haven't needed one. So, you know, I understand that that could happen, it could change tomorrow, right? We have a 4th grader in the district who's handicapped, and I'm not saying that it's not important, but I didn't think it was needed within the scope of this project. You know, this project, I kind of wanted to stand on its own. You know, doing a wheelchair lift in a hallway, we can manage on our own at any time. You know, if by chance we have a student and there's a need, we can literally hire someone to install something in a very short order. So I didn't want to kind of tie it to this. I just see that as just, you know, like if the elevator breaks, you know, what do you do?
And I'm not saying to prioritize that, but
No.
just in looking over this, if there is, sometimes there are these grants or funds that can come in for Disabilities Act or whatever, because you don't only have students, but you could have a teacher who all of a sudden needs that, and then we're here to scramble. It's just something, I don't think it should be on top 4, we have top 3. But in looking through to just see if there might be a plan. There's always money there, you know, sometimes. And the last thing on the gym closet, when we took our tour, small group instruction, are there any windows in that room?
No, that's what makes it difficult. It literally is a closet in the corner of a hallway. We use it for gym equipment, and it was never designed as a classroom, so, you know, it's open ceiling, there's no HVAC, there's lighting, of course, but, you know, so it'd be a significant amount of work to convert that into, you know, the standard for a classroom. In addition, it's right next to the gym, so there might be some additional soundproofing, you know, those other types of costs that it's not just in a general, we'll paint the walls and put in a drop ceiling type of solution.
There may not be an easy way of asking this question. I need to go on the tour if that's still possible at some point. I would love to. But as far as the, what you said?
Yes, right.
I don't think I could have just showed up, you know, like if I just show up. The basement, in general,
Yes.
what percentage of that basement do you think will now be, you know, usable space, and what percent would still need to be renovated at some point in the future?
Well, the space that we're identifying is space that used to be classrooms. It used to be the art room. It used to be accessible to students. So converting it back is not really, you know, that big of a stretch. The areas further down the hall has the boiler room, a closet that has storage, but it also has our the generator, our cogen, as well as our hot water heater and stuff. And so you can't really convert any of that stuff on that end of the hallway. And then on the end of the hallway is the building and grounds maintenance storage room where they have their workshop. So we'll have to talk about specifics on how we redo that hallway. We kicked around some ideas. We can discuss it with our architect of possibly putting in a fire door to break out the finished section or the recently remodeled section versus the old section. We also talked about in the hallway, it's a very wide space. So we thought that we could use the hallway as like a maker space area. If you had little desks or something that would come down from the walls or, you know, whatever, I can't think of, or storage bins against the wall. So that they could just open up and use that entire, it's a very lengthy hallway to work on. But, you know, at this stage, you know, that's all part of the scope, and it doesn't really require us to make that decision at this point. We just have to decide that, you know, what other areas we're going to focus on, or we're just going to focus on this area and try to keep it at anywhere between 450 and 600K, keeping in mind that there's going to be other costs that we don't anticipate, such as possibly redoing the HVAC. There is HVAC in the faculty lounge, and there's a standalone unit in the storage room, but I suspect that neither is going to be satisfactory to do the whole space properly.
What are you expecting that we will need to be voting on this? Just because I want to make sure I take a tour if possible.
Sure. Well, this is just to move forward with the initial design, and then getting some more hard numbers, and then that's when we really vote. It's just that, Jerry, what we decided was, instead of just doing this at the subcommittee, and then after spending money with drawings and moving down a path, we don't want to change direction.
No, I appreciate it. I
Sure.
think this is great the way you're handling it.
I think you should definitely go on the tour, but I raised the same concern in the meeting as did kind of Nancy, to say, it seems like a very high cost for $600,000 what we're doing. So when do you think we'll have high cost? Because it does seem a little bit excessive.
Well, these are preliminary numbers, so when the drawings are done and a bill of materials are created, and then we'll know better when it goes out to bid.
Does this include the architect fees?
Good question.
Did your estimate include?
Yeah, I'm not sure what numbers you're looking at, but the estimates we provided
Yes.
included hard costs, included a contingency that we need to carry anytime you do a renovation. The Department of Education requires you to carry a contingency, and then it is the soft costs, which are the professional fees, for a total number at the bottom. So I'm not sure which paper you're looking at, but the estimates that we provided to Dr. Ansel did include an all-inclusive approach, and if the contingency is not used, you don't spend it, and to your point, you know, you'll know the real numbers when the bidders come to the table, because depending on the time of year, depending on how much work is out there in the public sector at the time, there are a lot of variables that will drive the cost. Right now, the government tariffs we're seeing are having an impact on construction projects, and so those are being absorbed by the end user as contractors are passing those along, and so that has a function of timing. If you wait another year, costs are only going to go up as a result of something like just tariffs, which none of us control. But to answer your question, the document we gave you did include professional fees, which all inclusive estimate.
And those are included in these numbers. We use the totals.
I didn't see that.
I just, personally, I think there's going to be some scope creep because of the hallway. The hallway is going to be needed to be remodeled too, which will require new lighting. It will require integration with the HVAC in order to get proper airflow. While this is a basement, it's really basement on one side. On the other side, it's daylight. It's all open, but the hallway is isolated. The classrooms and the faculty rooms are not. So that hallway really needs to be integrated so that it has a better airflow. Any other questions?
So what's the time frame? Is there any time frame on where we move forward from here now?
Well, we have to approve. I'd like to make a motion in a minute to approve this preliminary scope, and then we'll contact our architect, who just happens to be here this evening, and then he can move forward and let us know. So, and then we'll probably discuss it at subcommittee, and I'll give you an update to the next board meeting. But this is something that I would like to address every month, so I'll give you updates. So, and hopefully we'll have progress. It's February. If this were to start in the summer, we'd really have to get this thing wrapped up in another 45 days.
So I heard you say you were going to want to have this approved tonight for this.
Yes.
Would you consider waiting a bit just so I could go on a tour, or is that something that you want to push through?
Actually, I prefer that we have a discussion this evening and agree to the initial scope. It is an initial scope, it's not a final scope. So if there is something that you want to include or to add on, there's plenty of time for that, because
the initial scope, meaning that they would actually price out these options too for us. The initial scope is that we would all be telling you only price this.
Yeah, so let me run through it. I'll give you an example. So, hypothetically speaking, we start with these top 3 items, and we got some drawings done, we got some preliminary numbers done, and we think that we have an additional 150K. We're going to use that 150K, and we're going to expand it. But at this point in time, the preliminary decision is just to move forward with these 3.
And there is no question that whether or not we need more space, like, that's been for a while, so we do have to do something.
I get it.
And our priorities, like Mr. Darian said, were set by the admins who are doing every day. So my opinion is, I think we vote tonight to just move forward. Like at the end, if you're uncomfortable, you can always vote no on the project. But we should get moving there because we definitely need more space. We've been discussing it for a while, but
And we
it's
would
up to
want
you.
the work done during the summer, right? That would be the goal, in the perfect world.
Yeah, it's not going to affect right now, the second floor, the first floor.
Sure.
But we would like to get those classrooms on the second floor out of there, next September, and free them up.
Sure.
So that would require that the basement be better. So, we'll see. But, you got to start somewhere, and so.
Right.
Make a motion on the top 3.
Do you want to make a motion, John?
Yeah, I move that we,
It's
We
not
have to-
on the agenda though.
make a B2.
Okay, John, so I would like to, let me make a motion to add it to the agenda. So I'd like to make a motion that we add item B2 to the agenda, which is approving proposed changes in room usage to include the top three items, which is basement storage room, basement faculty room, and then the movement of 217.
Do we need a motion to add it, or can you just add it and make your resolution?
I can just add it. You can make a resolution to add it.
But we're not like approving the project, we're approving the moving forward to create plans.
You can add it and then just make your motion from B1 and B2. So just say,
Okay, I'd just like to add okay, if that's how you want to do it. Okay, so then I'll back up and make a motion to add item B1 and B2. B2 is this proposed changes in room usage to include the basement storage room and the basement faculty.
And 217.
Yes, the movement of 217 counts as a base.
seconded by Mr. Walsh, any questions?
So are we, questions on B1 and B2?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. In item B1, I'm not comfortable with the wording on the custodial overtime for the Odyssey of the Mind group. We're adding Sundays, and the custodial overtime costs is $0
0 to the school.
to the school to be paid by the parents of participants as needed. I don't really know what that means. I mean, I know what it means. On Sundays, there are no custodians here. We can't have people using the building without custodians here, so we have to pay them overtime. But I don't know exactly how much money we would be charging parents. And in fact, if we should even be charging parents for something that is a school activity. So one is the clarity, like how much is the hourly fee, like a not to exceed amount, not to exceed $200, not to exceed $2,000. I don't know what it is. And then also, should we even be doing this?
I don't think we should be charging parents. This is a school activity. Why should parents be charged?
Something that's up to the board, they always have been. Like we can also say, you don't need to practice as much.
I think that they're being classified as Group A as opposed to Group B for all on stage.
Could you clarify this, because I don't have the policy in front of me.
And that might be something we can discuss.
No, Group A, it's exactly correct. Group A does not get charged any fees unless there is custodial overtime. Like the PTA, if they want to hold a party on Sunday, we would not charge them for any of our building use, but we would have to charge them for the custodial overuse. Taxpayers are not taking. So yes, it's a little bit different than Odyssey, but they're in the correct group. So that means they're not getting charged for anything other than custodial overtime if someone's on here.
So anytime they're using the building, there's no fee because we don't have custodians on staff
Right.
at that time.
I don't know if it'll really answer your concern directly, but just so you're aware, I did have multiple conversations with the advisor of this group about this issue. And the problem, the reason why we couldn't set an exact amount is because there are some variables that are unpredictable. One thing that we don't know is the only reason she would be using the room on Sundays for extra practice is if any of the teams qualify to go on to regional or world competitions. If they don't pass the first round, then the need disappears. The second variable is the usage by the rec department. And as the spring wears on, their usage changes significantly. so they may be scheduled to be in the building, and they would be covering the cost of any custodial overtime. But then, on the Thursday before the weekend in question, they may send us a message and say, well, never mind, we're going to leave at 2 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. In which case, my custodians will be leaving, except that this group is now here expecting to hold practice. So when we discussed it, the advisor assured me that in past years, her parents had been willing to cover this cost. And my advice to her was to make sure that this year's parents knew what was being proposed and that they had the option to opt out or have some kind of vote on whether they wanted to do this at all. So the group hasn't really made a formal decision, but the advisor is asking the board to vote on how it may work so that she can secure her room reservation. And so that's the reason we put it on tonight. She knows that there are some concerns, and so I would expect that she's going to take my advice and have a discussion with her parents. I think she may be simply waiting until she knows whether her kids are going to advance beyond the first round.
The only thing is 2 of these dates are advanced.
And not only that, just so you know, all of these days, all of these are before the first competition. None of these are after. All of these are before.
March 16th.
March 16th, right. So these have nothing to do with past regionals. So I hear you, but the simple question is, what is the custodial hourly rate on Sunday? That's the,
I'd have to.
and that's what I was trying, and I was emailing with Nicole, if that's the, I just want a number.
I think it's 80 something, I think, for double time. 70 something, 80, because.
So let's just, so 80, so $80 a month, 5 hours.
But a lot of these, basketball is going to be there, and they cover it.
On some,
Yeah, so they cover it.
basketball's finished.
Already?
Rec is finished. My son just won the championship last night.
Congratulations.
All of it, all
I don't
grades,
know about,
all
well, I can't
travel?
speak of travel. I can tell you that grades 5 and 6 rec is finished. Grades 3 and 4 rec is finished. I
So
can't
we'll
speak to the
just
others.
look and see.
And then also, Little League will come in at some point, we just don't know when. So, but if you talk about all of these Sundays, right? These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sundays, 5 hours, $80 is $2,000. Amount up to $2,000 before going to regionals.